back live once again here on NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris, once again behind the scenes for today's show. We'll talk lots of trade rumors out there, some a bit more credible perhaps than others. We will also talk my 2025 NFL mock draft. Last year, very obvious. Caleb Williams probably the number one overall pick. That ended up coming true. Matter of what team. This year, you can argue for like 10 different guys that they could be the number one overall pick, which I think is a good thing and also a confusing thing as well. First question, though, is also the pinned comment on today's video, and we will spend time on a potential Treylon Burks trade. Will that happen? Tennessee, of course, signing Tyler Boyd earlier today, which would then make Burks wide receiver 4, who doesn't play on special teams and is a former first-round pick. And Tennessee's invested big money elsewhere. Will they trade him? Y for yes and for no. I see Steven, a Titans fan, in the comments section saying Y for yes. Will not be surprised if he ends up getting dealt. There were enough teams that liked Burks coming out of that 2022 NFL draft. As bad as he's been, unfortunately, in Tennessee, somebody would flip, I think, a day 3 pick there. So, CD Prods says yes as well. So vote in the comments section. And, of course, vote in the pin poll as well. Right now, the pin poll is 58% say yes, 42% say no. Timothy says, watch the Chiefs pick him up. Chiefs do love throwing, third, fourth rounders at picks. Everyone. Who says no? Sky Moore for Treylon Burks, straight up. Chiefs probably throw something else in there as well, since Sky Moore has been another guy. I liked him a lot coming out of Western. I thought he'd be really good. He has not turned out very well for the Chiefs. And it should worry you when, you're not good with Mahomes. Are you going to be good elsewhere? That's kind of, I think, a red flag there. Jose, who I think that's a Titans logo. Maybe. That's kind of a weird Titans logo. Hold on. There's something. Oh, it is. Okay, it is. No, it is. It's a Titans logo. Zoomed out, it looked like it was kind of something else that wasn't Titans related there. So, Ray C, I think so. Hope my team does it. I feel like he's a Tin Man. We'll talk a little about Burke, so we will discuss that angle here in a little bit. Now, what do you guys like more, NFL or the NBA? The NBA crew here at Chat Sports trying to encroach on our live show territory, trying to do more NBA coverage because the offseason is just around the corner, which we will go to NBA live coverage in the offseason. It's a matter of how long can I push them off? Like, no, we'll do NFL this week. You guys can go next week, and then next week, and then it all gets out of hand. Finals time, it's like, we're going to do NBA Finals watch party. So, what do you guys like more, though? NFL or NBA? I assume, for NFL Daily, we'll get a lot of NFL votes. And that is the case so far. Timon the Buckeye. Thank you, Timon. Timothy, Noah, Zaire Brown, Ray C, all spamming in their NFLs. Lunatic Gaming. It took me to feel what this is kind of spelled weird. Choppy71, CD Prod says, I think his Timberwolves, I assume. They are playing quite well. At defense, oh boy, they look great on defense. I think people were kind of concerned about them like a year ago, Minnesota. Now they're playing some great ball. Sean Walsh is NFL by a mile. I also am big NFL guy. Shocker, says the host of NFL Daily and a bunch of NFL channels here at Chat Sports. Space City Music also typing in his NFL. So if it's all NFL fans, what is your favorite NFL team? Go ahead and drop that team name for me in the comments. As I'm sure most of you know, I am a Cowboys fan myself. Saw a great tweet of men like two things, sports and existential dread, and I said, I do it both at once by being a Cowboys fan. Space City Music says the Lions. Zaire Brown's got the Cowboys. Sean Walsh says the Lions. I thought I'd be a Lions fan. First time we said that in a long time. A couple Browns in there from Ray Biting, or Bidding, however. I forget how you pronounce it, Ray. I'm sorry. Time in the Buckeye says Browns. Lunatic Gaming's got the Chargers. Chris B says Cowboys, unfortunately. So you guys can't hurt us more than we have already been hurt. Rams from Ray C. CD Prod says the Vikings. Patriots. Panthers in there as well. Another Vikings in there. Bitting. Oh. Okay. I'll try. Ray, I will do my best to remember that, and I will probably forget it and or screw it up later. So my apologies in advance there. Chris says the Giants. Joseph just says Tampa, so I assume that means Tampa Bay. I think that's a pretty good guess on that front there. Patriots in there from Alex Stewart, and Joseph has confirmed Buccaneers as well. A lot of teams that have won titles in recent years, and some that have not, and we are all those of us who have not are quite sad by it right there. So flood the comment section with your favorite team in the comment section as I crack my neck. I've always wondered if they can hear that when I crack my neck like that. You couldn't hear it? Freaks out my wife when I do it. Jesus Vasquez says bear down, so Chicago Bears there. Chargers from Steve Weeks. Some good optimism around the Chargers now. Jim Harbaugh in place. Might take another year to really get things going, but I think they'll eventually get kind of back on track there. Kenneth Henderson is a Falcons fan. Appreciate that, Kenneth. Keep the comments coming to shout out your favorite NFL team. Cowboys in there from Nick Rickman as well. We will get to my 2025 way too early NFL mock draft. I'll probably tweet this out at some point, but remember, did you watch the newest Spider-Man movie? This is a spoiler alert, where Garfield and Maguire come back in. Great movie. There's a scene where the Green Goblin is like hearing the voices of the mask, or I guess Norman is, and it's there's this great scene of like the mask like talking to him, and that's like me with like 2025 film of like versus like spend time with your family, which you didn't do during the draft process. It's like, but it's there, I've got it. We'll talk about my mock draft. In general, not a fan of this upcoming quarterback class. I will get to my answer as part of the mock draft. Teaser, I've got 2 QBs in the first round. And I don't think that anyone is actually a lock first-round pick. Epic Jets got Carson Beck. I think if the draft happened today, he would probably be the favorite to be the first quarterback taken. He also might have been like quarterback 5 in the actual draft. Maybe even 6, given how high Penix ended up going. There's talent there. There's like every quarterback's like he does this well, does not this well, needs to take this step forward, and somebody will emerge. But there's a lot of concerns again about all these different quarterbacks. Beck has shown promise. It's also like it's a 1-year sample size, and small sample size can be a bit concerning. Shooter Sanders. We'll see if he makes the mock draft. I saw someone asked about Quinn Ewers earlier today as well. Very popular name, given he's from Texas and had the CFP run, and he drives me insane. I can't sometimes. Like footwork, very personable. Like very, very personal thing. Like, to extent, not as extreme. It's golf. Scotty Scheffler has that wild footwork where his back foot's like 4 yards behind him. Works. Doesn't matter. If the footwork works and the results are good, you don't need to change it. Like Aaron Rodgers, I actually can't stand his footwork. It annoys me. It's just constantly weird, but it works, and he's a great quarterback, so it's fine. Quinn Ewers' footwork just drives me insane. It's just everywhere, and there's no consistency on his deep ball. I think footwork is a big factor in that. That worries me. Ray C says Matthew Stafford. The correct answer here might be Dak Prescott. If you had to market, it seems to be like, okay, well, we can get Dak, or somebody I'm sure will emerge. So there will be a Heisman Trophy winner that ends up being playing quarterback. That's how it normally goes, right? But calm down there, Bama boy. He goes Jalen Milroe. But unironically is probably a top 5-ish quarterback right now. And he has to not take sacks. Like the number one thing he has to do, because sacks are drive killers. They are not as bad in the stat sheet as an interception, but they're not that different in terms of how they can ruin drives. Obviously, sacks are better. But you hold the ball forever on 2nd and 7, and now you're in 3rd and 18 or 3rd and 15. It's like, okay, you're kind of in trouble. So best quarterback in the 2025 NFL Draft. Drop that player name for me in the comments section. Now, if you are ready for the NFL season to return, or even for the NFL to announce the schedule date, I've got stuff I need to plan out when I can do things and when I can't do things and what the overall week schedule looks like. I'd like to know when the schedule's going to come out. We know they're going to play in September, but what's the order of games, I can't do any, people like, hey, are you going to be available for this date in October? I'm like, I don't know. Just you picked a Sunday. Probably not. You have a 1 in 18 chance I'll be available, If you are ready for the NFL season to return, like today's video for me right now. Goal is always a 50% like ratio. Actually not that far away from it. So like today's video for me if you haven't already. Coming up on today's live edition of NFL Daily, some news and rumors we'll run through. Heavy trade rumor updates, by the way. A mailbag. There are 2 ways to get on the show. Use hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether with a super chat. We will also run through my way too early 2025 NFL mock draft. All that's coming up live here on NFL Daily. The NBA crew here at Chat Sports is trying to infringe on my time as NFL host. They want to do NBA shows on Chat Sports. So let's establish that NFL is still king around here. If you like the NFL more, spam NFL for me in the comments section. And if you do actually want more NBA coverage, this is the democracy. You can vote by typing in NBA right now. We begin with the NFL, really news of the day. That is Tyler Boyd. The Titans have signed Boyd to a 1-year deal worth up to $4.5 million. I think a pretty good value for a player who, yes, his production has declined in recent years, in part because of the presence of, having Jamar Chase, having T. Higgins, having all of those things. But Boyd is a good slot receiver. He is not necessarily the most dynamic, but he is reliable. And Brian Callahan, the Titans head coach, knows him better than anybody. He's been his OC for years in Cincinnati. And there were some drop issues, by the way, but he does have some reliability in the slot and gives them a piece that adds to a heavily invested wide receiver room right now. They paid massive money for Calvin Ridley, trying to correct the wrong of trading away A.J. Brown. They have DeAndre Hopkins. They've now added Boyd to man the slot over Kyle Phillips. Nick Westbrook-Keen, if he's like your receiver 5, you're in good shape. They drafted Jaquan Jackson late in this year's draft, and they have Treylon Burks. And this is what I am most intrigued by. Because look, Hopkins and Boyd probably aren't going to be long-term pieces, but the Treylon Burks trade rumors are about to appear, if they haven't already, with a vengeance. The additions of Ridley, keeping Hopkins, adding Boyd, even a draft pick, I think puts Treylon Burks firmly on the hot seat. And I would not be surprised if he ended up getting traded. Because let's be honest, as much as I think most people liked him coming out of the NFL draft, and I had a second-round grade on him, which was lower than most, but he was still a top 32 player for me, the production's been a pretty massive disappointment. There is a very limited sample size of wide receivers who put up that level of production. We're talking not even getting to 700 yards in their first 2 seasons that eventually end up becoming premier players. To an extent, it's kind of like the whole bad quarterbacks are always propped up by the Peyton Manning year 1 interception stat that has never really been duplicated. And, receivers struggle on, propped up by Devontae Adams, slow to start his career. Now look at him. That's how it tends to go. They try to use that as the outlier as the evidence of why it will still end up working. But it was a former first-round pick. There is value there. And maybe a change of scenery makes the most sense for all parties involved. Because Tennessee, they don't want to get rid of playmakers for Will Levis, but they need to have guys that they trust. And maybe the new regime is out more on Burks. Here's the contract breakdown. He's pretty cheap this year. It's under $4 million cap hit. If Titans trade him after June 1st, which I would assume they would do because you're 3 weeks away. At that point, you're okay waiting in the end. The new team cap hit becomes 2.01. That's super affordable. I know plenty of teams had Burks in their top 30, top 40, top 50. Getting that type of guy, a 2-year look at him for, let's say, a 5th-round pick, I think there would be some interest there. So prediction time. Will the Titans trade Treylon Burks? Y for yes, N for no. It's the pinned comment on this video. If an ad, which you might not play here on YouTube, it's great. Take advantage of it. Ignore the ad. Instead, go vote. Y for yes, N for no. Let's talk Jonathan Allen as ESPN's Jeremy Fowler again, kind of maybe not gasoline, but adding some more tinder to the fire of a potential Jonathan Allen trade. Remember, the Commanders took one of my guys this year, Johnny Newton out of Illinois in round 2, and I think Several league execs thinking the same thing I thought, according to Fowler. Quote, a few execs are wondering if Washington will ever consider offers for Allen, who is due $15.4 million this year and $16.5 million next, below market for high-end tackles. The people I've talked to believe Washington either needs to rework his contract or decide if it will entertain trade interest, which it has rebuffed in the past. But for now, head coach Dan Quinn can concoct a plan to get all three defensive tackles on the field. Obviously, that's Allen, Daron Payne, and Johnny Newton. I think this is a logical thing to consider because the NFL teams do the same things we do of like, okay, who could I trade for? And you go, they drafted Johnny Newton. They paid Daron Payne. What about Jonathan Allen? I think that is a perfectly valid thing to consider. And we will break down some of the pros and cons of pursuing him here in a moment on today's show. But the NFL rookie jerseys are available. Not all the numbers are in place. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit. But you can pre-order it right now. Go to chatsports.com/NFL jersey. You will be able to find your team's jerseys, change your drop down, look at your other options there. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, whatever player, team you're a fan of, the rookie jerseys are available. We'll put that link in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's chatsports.com/NFL jersey. In 2023, Allen put up 5.5 sacks, 10 TFLs, and he's been, despite playing on a team that wasn't good at all, and that led to fewer pass rush opportunities, I would rank Allen in that top 10 defensive tackle conversation, which is nice because there's a lot of good ones these days. There's a lot of talent out there, and that means you have to pay for it, by the way. Here's how the money breaks down for Jonathan Allen. His cap hit this year is for the Commanders. It's $21.44 million. It's a lot of money. The 2025 cap hit is $23 million. Depending on if the workout bonus has been paid out or not, it's 15 to 15.5, somewhere in that range for Allen if he gets traded. 15.44 saved by the Commanders. Of note, the guaranteed money left, $0. Allen wants a new deal. There's no more security. There's no more guaranteed sums available. And he's not dumb. He has seen the defensive tackle market skyrocket. I'm going to include Aaron Donald on here, even though he is retired, because I do think that directly informed the eventual Chris Jones deal. So I do want to explain why there's that weird gap between 1 and 2. Plus, there were a lot of people tied in the $20-ish million range. So obviously Donald's retired, but I think it's still worth mentioning since that was signed as part of this tier. Christian Wilkins got $27.5 million. Matabike, Brown, Williams all got 24. Simmons got 23.5. If you trade for Allen, it only costs you 15.5, whatever million bucks. But you're probably going to give him a big fat new deal. And then that kind of brings down the trade value a little bit. The goal is 376,000 subscribers here on Chat Sports. Appreciate everyone who subbed during our NFL draft coverage. If you haven't already, join us. Hit that sub button right now. Najee Harris has been linked in trade rumors specifically to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, as someone with no life, I am very good at finding the actual source of trade rumors. Now, or any rumor out there. Now, what had happened originally was, FanSided does a trade idea after the report we'll get to in a minute. Bleacher Report, others say multiple reports state. Now, the issue was they never actually linked the reports. It was kind of a bad game of telephone where one aggregator said it was multiple reports, then another, then another, then another, then another. The original one was this one, John Frisella, however you pronounce it. Says, per my discussions with my Pittsburgh source this evening, his whole thing is he claims to have a source in each city. Not how it works. The most likely landing spot for a Najee Harris trade is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, when we discussed this on our Cowboys show, I went, this does not pass the smell test. This is the same guy that said Aiyuk had demanded a trade. Agent said you need better sources. And John says, well, he never disputed it technically. I'm like, dude, what does you need better sources mean? And he'll cling to like the half-truth and say, see, I was right. He's not a credible source. And then Jane Slater comes barreling through and says, on these Najee Harris Cowboys reports, team source tells me, clickbait. Yeah, I don't buy it. I will say this, though. It doesn't make sense for Pittsburgh because they don't have the depth behind Najee Harris. It's Jalen Warren and Cordarrelle Patterson, who one is a 3, not a 2 at this time, and Warren's probably more of a rotation back than a full guy. Fully expect the Dallas Cowboys to be linked to every single running back from now until the NFL trade deadline, maybe even after they get somebody else. This is a running back room that does not work in 2024. It is not good enough. So somebody gets cut, Cowboys going to get linked. Someone might be on the trade block, Cowboys going to get linked. The Steelers did decline Najee Harris's 5th-year option, and I get that. He's been the very rare 3 straight years of 1,000 yards in his NFL career. Yeah, but he had to get about 280 carries a year to do it, or 270 carries a year to do it. It's not good efficiency. It's not good value, and not that many big plays. So I get why they declined the option. I think they're definitely going to keep him this year, though. As for the Cowboys, will they eventually trade for a running back? 1 for yes or 0 for no. Let's get to the latest on a potential Brandon Aiyuk trade. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler revealed what we had predicted, by the way, of the likely trade cost for getting Brandon Aiyuk during the NFL draft. Here's what Fowler wrote for ESPN. Multiple teams told me they had interest in Brandon Aiyuk, but they believe the Niners wanted a first-round pick for him, with one comparing to that of A.J. Brown, who went from Tennessee to Philadelphia in 2022 in exchange for the 18th pick and a little bit more, actually. The Eagles then signed him to a 4-year, $100 million deal. Trading for Aiyuk would have required a new deal and a premium pick. That seems fair to me. Not everyone's going to agree, and clearly the NFL didn't agree enough because no one gave the first-round pick on a very strong receiver class anyway. Maybe the Jacksonville Jags, and that was one such team there. Brandon Aiyuk, low-key, was one of the best receivers in football last year. 1,300 yards, 7 TDs on 75 catches. He's gotten better every single year. Every year he's done more. He's been more explosive. He's a really good runner. He's great after the catch. He has all the things I think you're looking for in a legitimate wide receiver 1. So yeah, I would have wanted a first-round pick. Now you got to pay him probably like $25 to $35 million. That's a lot of money. I get why teams didn't want to double dip in that asset area. I think depending on how things play out, New England might make more sense next year, but you couldn't trade the number 3 overall pick for him. And you don't give a future first, which might be a top 5 pick. It's tough to know where they draft. Giants weren't going to do it because they got Malik Neighbors on the cheap, who I love. I think the Niners end up paying him, but that situation with all those receivers, all that draft capital invested and the money invested, something's got to give at some point. I want you guys to shout out your favorite team for me in the comments section. Quick update for you guys on Rashee Rice. This is coming just across the wire. He is now under investigation for allegedly hitting a photographer at a club in Dallas Monday morning. Dude, just go. I tell people to go. Some people tell people to go touch grass. Rashee Rice, go inside. Just stay inside. This is not something that you should be having headlines on for you. You're already facing 8 charges for your speeding case or your racing case, whatever. Now you got this one in there? Dude, just go home. Go to the gym. Go to the team facility. Go home. That is it. That's all you should be doing. Like, another incident for you? My God, dude. It's just you gotta stop. You gotta stop. Food review says it was at Chimmy's. I was there. This report says it was at the Lit Kitchen, which I can't say I've been there to. I'm looking this up, which is a nightclub. I mean, it's in downtown. It's quite literally about a 15-minute walk, if that, from the Chat Sports office in Dallas. What are you doing, man? Just what are you doing? All right, favorite teams I see. I see Browns, Raiders, Chiefs. Tough break for you there, Rick. Hey, at least you got Xavier Worthy. Steelers, Patriots, Bucks, Commies in there, Vikings. He said Commies, so I can say it. Browns, Lions, Bucks, and more. We are going to get to our mailbag next on today's show. Now, there are two ways to get on it. If you use hashtag NFL, you are at the mercy of producer Chris picking your question. He may or may not do it. Also requires you to actually use the hashtag NFL. If you super chat, you are guaranteed to get on the show. It is a lock. We will make sure you get a shout out. So get your questions in via super chat or via hashtag NFL. We're about to break down our mailbag here on NFL Daily. If you do not see your question answered or you have a question that pops up randomly in your head mid-July, whatever, you can always DM me on Twitter. My DMs are open at WhatGoingDowny. From Lore, our 49ers fan, who should the Niners draft next year, and who should they be worried about their opponents for this year, this season? I always advise, hey, don't discount anybody. You know, the Niners in the NFC have the target on their back. They're the best team in the division, in the conference. So you're going to get a lot of times the A game from the teams. No one's going to take you lightly, you know? Draft next year, we'll see how it plays out. Not receiver. Probably stands out to me. I think maybe corner. We'll see how Renardo Green plays. He might be a nickel for them, Frank, which I would like, actually. We can do some outside stuff as well. I think offensive line. Both tackle spots need some love. Sean Walsh, could the Houston Texans trade John Mechie this offseason? That wouldn't shock me, right? Because Nico Collins is a one. I am convinced on that. They have Stephon Diggs. In theory, Tank Dell will be back from his injury and his unfortunate gunshot wound. He's your slot receiver. Diggs is there as an outside receiver for a year. They brought back Noah Brown. They have Robert Woods for now. Mechie could get squeezed. Given the investment, you sometimes second round pick, you're not going to get that back in a trade. But if you put him on the market, you can get a sixth at worst, fifth maybe for him. You could get something back. It's just you're just selling at the low point because he hasn't done anything so far in his career. Choppy71, Miles Sanders gets traded to the Cowboys from the Panthers. I would not be surprised if come week one, Miles Sanders is not on the Carolina Panthers roster. Think about that running back, right? They add Rashad Penny. I was kind of surprised they added Rashad Penny, who didn't play much for Philadelphia, but has juice, has explosive plays. Drafted Jonathan Brooks in the second. They have Chuba Hubbard. Raheem Blackshear, I think, is probably going to carve out their kick return role and make the team. Then there's Mike Boone, Tariq Cohen. We'll see if he does anything. Spencer Brown's got some ability. You know, you would be fine with Miles Sanders not being on this team. The money is the issue. It's about $4 million and change he's owed. That would be more than Dallas paid any outside player this offseason. In fact, any player this offseason. So I think Dallas might try to dare him to get cut, but that is a good name to consider on the trade market, specifically for the Cowboys as well. Austin, is there any chance Denver deals Courtland Sutton? I would say no. That won't stop the 5 players who could be traded articles, Courtland Sutton to Pittsburgh, whatever articles. But if you spend a first-round pick on a quarterback, in this case Bo Nix, and you trade away your number 2 receiver in Jerry Jeudy, you normally don't want to also trade away your number 1 receiver. I think by drafting that quarterback in round 1 and not tanking, or even if you take in like a tight end, I think it would have made more sense. Like at that point, I would have bought it. You have to give Bo Nix playmakers. You can't spend a first-round pick on a quarterback and then take his legs out from underneath him by, just not having any playmakers. And I like Marvin Mims. Reynolds can be reliable for you. Hopefully Tim Patrick gets healthy. Troy Franklin knows Bo Nix. But Franklin was a 4th-round pick. You kind of need Courtland Sutton. So this is a tough prediction. I'm going to challenge you guys on this one. How many trades go down between now and week 1 of the NFL season? Is it 5? Is it more? That includes even the random, they flipped a backup lineman for a 7th rounder. It's the pinned comment on today's video, so think about it if you need to while the ad plays, and go vote at the pinned comment. From Steven, the Titans go after Zay Jones after signing Tyler Boyd to truly trade away Treylon Burks. They did bring Zay Jones in for a visit, if I recall correctly. Now, they, of course, signed Tyler Boyd. So I would think that there was probably one or the other between Jones and Boyd. But if you sign Jones to be your receiver 4, you're trading Burks. It makes no sense to keep him anymore unless like an injury happens. Because I actually like Kyle Phillips as a backup slot. You spent a 6th-round pick on Jaquan Jackson. You have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. There's now too many receivers to make the roster on this team. So I would not be surprised, even without a Zay Jones addition, that Tennessee decides to flip Treylon Burks in a trade. CD Prods, do you think Quinn Ewers will be a first-round pick? There is the possibility. Quinn Ewers is a frustrating as all get out watch. The arm talent's there. He can make all the off-platform throws. He's a trick shot machine. It's the down-to-down consistency that's just not there. He doesn't see things that well. I think he very much benefited from an elite supporting cast. It was 2 top 50 picks, 3 top 50 picks at the playmakers, plus JT Sanders, plus another draft pick in Jordan Whittington, an elite college OC/play caller in Steve Sarkisian. He'll have a first-round pick on the offensive line in Kevin Banks. He had a day 3 pick in Christian Jones. It's a great team. And the deep ball, honestly, is terrible. I made a big deal about Bo Nix not having good deep ball success, JJ McCarthy being limited there. It was terrible. Like those guys doubled his production when you take out the Bama game. The one game he hit some deep balls. There's no consistency there. The footwork is personal. It drives me insane because it's just so inconsistent and so messy. So he might be a first-round pick if he gets better. But right now, I don't think he would be. There's a lot of projection involved there, like with most teams, but still. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It's very simple. Pick more, pick less on 3 to 6 players or 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings come in. In general, always advise the flex play. The flex play means if you pick 3 and you get 2 right, you win. If you pick 4, you get 3 right, you win. You can get 1 wrong. Now, it is a lower payout, but I am very good about getting all but 1 player projection right. Really good at it. That's why I do the flex play. Helped me out in a pretty major way throughout the NBA playoffs and the NFL regular season, which, by the way, you can do NBA playoff prize pick slates. You can do NHL if you're a hockey guy. Even esports is available. Here's my NFL season-long prize picks. I've got Patrick Mahomes more than passing yards, Dak Prescott more than passing yards, CeeDee Lamb more than touchdowns, Micah Parsons more than sacks as well. And all of those, I'm doing the flex play, doing the more than, because it kind of already factors in some injury risks. Those guys stay healthy. All of those projections are less than what they did last year. Therefore, they should hit it. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Zaire Brown, Tolbert, and a third for Cortland Sutton, and a trade for Najee Harris for the Cowboys. That's not enough for Sutton. Denver's we're getting basically a third and a flyer for our number 1 receiver. They would need more than that. I don't think Harris is getting traded. I know that's been a very popular rumor out there because somebody made it up on Twitter, basically. But I don't think he's going to get moved. And I think Dallas wouldn't want to pay that money. Plus, they have guys that fill the Najee Harris role. That's kind of Zeke's role. You need someone with juice at the running back spot if you are Dallas. Steve Likens? Not sure how to pronounce it, Steve. I'm very sorry. Do the Lions trade for a wide receiver or an edge before the year begins? I think they're going to let it ride at wide receiver. I wouldn't be mad if they made a deal. They have Laporta. He's going to play a big role for them. They also kind of paid Brock Wright, too. I think they want to let Jameson Williams show what he can do. I think they do like DPJ. Remember, they traded for DPJ last year at the deadline. Didn't get to use him a ton. Edge-wise, I think they're banking on Marcus Davenport being that impact player. I think next year in the draft, though, wide receiver, edge, definitely 2 spots to monitor, depending on how some of those younger guys play. From Simon, will the Niners trade Debo this offseason? Maybe. I wonder if they think they missed because they can keep Debo on the roster for now, and they can revisit that next offseason. Now, that means you're not going to maximize your current assets, and you're probably going to have to trade or dump one of Ronnie Bell, Jawan Jennings, and Danny Gray, not to mention Chris Conley and Trent Taylor, because in that case, you're keeping Aiyuk, Debo, and Ricky Pearsall. It's a loaded wide receiver room. If you're a team that needs a receiver, call San Francisco. I think for now, Debo stays. But this might be his last year in San Francisco, whether it's a cut or a trade in the future. I think of the two, right now, I think it's more likely Debo. Who do you think is more likely to be dealt by the 49ers? DS for Debo Samuel, BA for Brandon Aiyuk. A $5 super chat from Chris B. Thank you, Chris. What do you think the Cowboys should be hoping for to start the season schedule? I think they should hope for an easy start. Tough start could end up a rough season. You know, you just don't want it to be a disastrous start. You don't want to have all of your hard games at the beginning. To an extent, I would rather kind of space them out a little bit because you also don't want to back into the postseason and have a bunch of losses, right? So what you don't want is what the Giants got screwed with last year. Do you guys remember that Giants 2024 schedule was probably one of like the worst setups that are 2023 schedule, obviously, that I can really recall. I think they absolutely kind of got shafted to an extent because they were home against Dallas, at Arizona, at San Francisco, home against Seattle, which I think might have been it was a Monday night game, at Miami, at Buffalo. They played like so many games in a row on the road or overseas, and they didn't have a bye till week 13. Like, they had so many road games, though. I thought that was kind of unfair. That's what I don't want to have if I were the Cowboys or any team, frankly. We've got NFL off-season coverage for you all year long. News, rumors, trades, draft, free agency, everything else in between, so don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now. Richard Iacocco, NASCAR fan, 2024. How many primetime games will the Chicago Bears play this season? The most primetime games you're allowed, I believe, is 5, not including, or 6 including, no, it's 6 now. It is 6. So I don't think they're going to get to the full 6. But I would anticipate, you know what, you're probably going to get like at least 3 or 4 there. It's Caleb Williams, man. The Bears are exciting. They're a big market. They will have a bunch of primetime games this year. I'll put the over-under at 4.5 for them. Food review. With the knowledge NFL will put Super Bowl past President's Day weekend, what's your conspiracy on why the schedule is later than most years? I love this one, food review. I think it is late because I think they made a last-second decision to play games on Christmas Day, which I hate, by the way, because I don't think they should be playing Christmas Day games on a Wednesday and a Tuesday. I think that's a terrible idea. It's bad for the players. And I think that's kind of screwing up the strategy. Like, I think the schedule makers are kind of, it's a very difficult job because you got to try to balance it as best as possible. It's messy. I think they made that late change, and they're like, oh, no. And they're trying to sell that game, too, to the different TV networks, and that's going on. So I think that later decision has pushed it back a little bit. From Max, why haven't the Bengals traded T. Higgins for Henderson yet? Simple. They don't want to. They want those guys on the team. They want to have Higgins and Chase and Burrow, who, when they played together in a small sample size last year, when healthy, it was the best offense in football from an efficiency perspective. Hendrickson is their best pass rusher by a massive margin. They need those guys to go win games in 2024. They might not be with the Bengals in 2025, but for 2024, they need them. And you don't want to waste a year of Joe Burrow by trading away guys for the future when you have good players already on your team. Now, you guys have a chance to go trade Higgins or Henderson to your favorite team here. Put your trade ideas in the comment section right now. Epic Jet, do you think all the AFC North teams are going to go above 500 again or not? The North teams' strength of schedule are all top 10. Remember that a factor in why that strength of schedule is so good is because all those teams were no worse than 7-10 last year. Like, you had a bunch of good football teams. The Bears still won 7 games. Minnesota won 7 games. Green Bay won 9. Detroit won 12. I don't think they'll get to all of them up at 500 or better. Sorry, I was looking at the NFC North like an idiot. This happened last year for the AFC North, so I was going like Bears and Vikings. Did happen last year. Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati all won at least 9 games. At some point, somebody has to regress. But the AFC North's a dogfight. If they all go 3-3 or even out to 500 or close to it, not having like the Bengals went 1-5 last year, that was kind of kept them out of the playoff race. All those teams, go 3-3 or close to it, and they win their outside games, it's possible. My guess this year, though, is no. Now, we have a very important question for you, the audience here. Who won? D for Drake, K for Kendrick. I assume at this point there will be no more response from Kendrick. I would think. Although I will be very excited if he drops another diss track tonight. Like that'd be very exciting for me. So who do you think won? D for Drake, K for Kendrick. Gaming says neither. I think both might have won because they got their worked on an NFL show, right? Epic Jet says it's K. I agree. I think Kendrick won. It is A. I think his disses were straight up better. He didn't have to take shots at half the other people. I simply don't believe the Drake plant theory because we know who Drake is. If Drake had actually fed that false info on purpose, he'd have posted the evidence of it and not just kind of gotten on board with the fan theory and claimed it, which is what I would have done too if I were Drake. But they spent how long on that music video? No one thought to get together and show the screen records or film the audio? I think they would have done that. They would because Drake would have taken victory laps on Instagram and he would have won that way. And frankly, I think not Like Us is an absolute banger. Like Drake tends to make like better poppier music. Not Like Us was a very it's gonna chart at number 1. Like that's kind of Kendrick beating Drake at his own game. So I think Kendrick won, but you guys can vote. D for Drake, K for Kendrick in the comments section. We are about to break down my 2025 NFL mock draft, the way too early edition. As a reminder, we will have more NFL draft coverage for you right here on the show. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button right now. As we get into my way too early 2025 mock draft, couple notes. A, it's more about the player and a little bit less about the roster fit. To an extent, I did want to fill needs, but it's a year from now. Everything's going to change. The order was based on the Super Bowl odds reversed, with tiebreakers going to win projections and playoff odds. So if you don't like where your team is ranked, that is not my fault. Blame the Vegas bookmakers. So Carolina's at number 1. No quarterback here. You can ask 10 different draft analysts right now, and you probably get like 7 or 8 answers who's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I'm a big fan of James Pearce Jr. I have loved what I've seen from him at Tennessee. I think he is an ascending player in a class that you could have legitimately like 10 guys if they play the way that they can play, push for that top spot. I'll go James Pearce for now, but I am not beholden to that take. Mykel Williams next up here for the Patriots. Thought about a DT, but they got Christian Barmore. Williams, with all way too early mock drafts, there is projection involved. How good are you going to be? Do you get better the way we think you're going to? And that's a lot going on here with Mykel Williams. But it's exactly what we said about Jalen Carter, who ended up being a top 10 pick and could have been top 2 if he hadn't had all the off-the-field stuff there. Williams going to play more edge, sounds like, for Georgia. Big-time breakout year potential coming. Will Campbell at LSU, which is kind of funny. LSU had 2 first-round receivers, a first-round quarterback, and they might have 2 first-round offensive linemen in the 2025 class. Campbell played really well for the Tigers. Sack numbers were low in part because Daniels did a good job of avoiding stuff there. Size, athletic ability traits, all there. He's in a battle with 1, maybe 2 others to be the first tackle taken. Will Johnson out of Michigan to the Commanders here. I think they need a corner. We'll see if Benjamin St-Juste ends up being a piece. Dan Campbell, not afraid to invest in corners. Michigan has a bunch of different potential first-round picks this year, even more so than last year. I am a huge fan of Johnson's game. Had he been eligible, he might have been the first corner taken in this past NFL draft. All right, Kelvin Banks out of Texas. Again, competing with Campbell, I think, to be that first player taken. You take J.C. Latham in round 1 last year, put him on the right side, put Kelvin Banks on the left side. Now you got bookend, decade-long tackles in place for the Tennessee Titans. Let's put our first quarterback in here. Carson Beck out of Georgia. In general, and we'll go more in depth on this in a little bit, I don't love this draft class. But if the Giants are drafting 6th again, that means Daniel Jones ain't it, or Drew Lock ain't it, or both of them ain't it. And I think Beck has the most upside, the most consistency, the most just pure talent, closest to being realized right now to be that top pick. He might not be a first-round pick at all, but we have to put some quarterbacks in the way too early mock draft. So today's pinned comment is this. Who is the best QB in the 2025 NFL draft? Is it Beck? Is it somebody else? We'll get to here in a little bit. Sound off at the pinned comment of today's video. Michigan has not one, but 2 defensive tackles. We'll get to the other one here in a little bit. Mason Graham out of Michigan has the burst that not all these Michigan DTs end up having. With Chris Jenkins, etc., off to the NFL, should have even more playing time for Graham. The Cardinals invested in DTs. They don't have a juiced-up guy like Mason Graham, though. I think there's real top 10 potential there. I'm going to put Travis Hunter as an athlete. Is he a receiver? Is he a cornerback? You can ask different NFL scouts, and they'll say, he's a receiver. No, he's a cornerback. I might just let him do both. And what better place to have that swag than Las Vegas? I think it's a fantastic fit. I'd play him both ways. He's got instincts at both spots. I think I'd go corner over receiver, but I get the receiver angle. Corner's a big need for Vegas. Plug him in there and let him play some offense, too. I think that would be a good fit for him. Plus, Vegas is at least warm enough in the summers, maybe not so much at night, to make that work. Minnesota gets Deion Walker out of Kentucky. I love him. The dude is a massive human being. He's like 6'5", 350. And he moves so much better than people that size are supposed to move. Minnesota has a huge need at DT. I think they take one. Now, I'd also mention, I think Minnesota likes Kenneth Grant out of Michigan a decent amount early on. We'll come back to him, though. The Saints probably going to lose Rashid Shaheed or A.T. Perry, or at some point somebody down the line. You got to invest some more assets there at receiver longer term. And I love Luther Burden. I'll be honest, the first time I went through this, I didn't have any receivers go in my top 19. I'm like, I got to find a spot for a receiver. There's too many good ones. Burden is an electric football player. Loved watching him at Missouri this past year. This will be one of the harder evals unless he takes a big step forward for me. That's Harold Perkins Jr. out of LSU. I think he's a linebacker. I don't think he's a pass rusher. I don't think he's big enough to do pass rush stuff full time. There will be Micah Parsons comps. Okay. I wonder if Anthony Barr is a better comp for him, although he's not even as big as Anthony Barr is. Like, maybe Devin White ends up being the comp, which would kind of scare me. There's talent there. LSU's defense was so bad, you almost want to just toss out that film last year. I want to see him be a full-time off-ball linebacker, which I think is going to be the plan this year for the Tigers, and then be deployed as a blitzer. I think that's his best path, but I'm very curious how LSU ends up using him, because we saw him get to the quarterback pretty well as a true freshman. Took a step back last season. Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. Unless he's terrible this year, he's going to be a pretty consistent top 15 mock draft pick for me, if not even higher. He's a very, very good corner. Another Michigan man, Colston Loveland to Indy. They were obviously heavily linked to Brock Bowers. Loveland would have been tight end too had he been eligible this year. I am very curious what the production looks like with the quarterback change coming from Michigan, but there are blocking and pass-catching traits to really like for Loveland. Which, by the way, would be funny if he went to the Bengals, because there's a Loveland, Ohio, which is where my parents live. So it'd be kind of that might go over very well for them. I'm going to put Shedeur Sanders here at 14 to Pitt, or from to Pitt out of Colorado. And we'll see if Fields is the answer. If they're picking 14th, probably means neither him nor Russ were the answer there, by the way. So don't blame me for where you're picking, Steelers fans. I like Sanders. I liked him a lot last season. He's not a lock first-round pick right now. He has to do better against pressure, has to stop creating his own pressure, has to be better pushing the ball more downfield even at times, over the middle of the field. The quick strike passing game, absolutely there. There is growth that is needed. And this is the last QB I have in my round one mock draft. I refuse to put Quinn Ewers in here. I just can't. I need to see. There's always projection involved, especially at quarterback. I think there's even more projection involved for Quinn Ewers, and I'm not comfortable doing it. Other guys, I've seen people like various levels of like for all of these guys across the NFL. Drew Aller has the arm strength, but he wasn't good last year for Penn State. He has to be just drastically better. Massive growth projection there. Jalen Milroe has the arm strength, the mobility. He takes so many sacks. Connor Wigman, people like him, but he's never actually been healthy. So let's see him be healthy for a year. Dylan Gabriel's an older prospect, could maybe fit the Michael Penix. There's going to be a lot of Michael Penix cops. Transfer, Pac-12-ish, lefty, Riley Leonard, older transfer, but he was a dual threat. Noah Fafita is undersized, but I actually like him a lot. He's super fun. He's just tiny, and that's going to ding him. Cameron Ward, people like him, but I have never been in love with his play. I think a great chance to showcase himself for at Miami. Jackson Dart just kind of screams day three guy to me. Jalen Daniels is a great athlete, but is he a real quarterback? None of these guys are clear-cut, yes, there's no this is a Drake May caliber QB. Maybe somebody has a Jaden Daniels year and locks themselves into a top 5, top 10, top whatever pick, but there's no guarantee these guys end up being first rounders. Some of them might even go back to school. So how many QBs go in round one of the 2025 NFL Draft? Sound off for me in the comments right now. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan to the Chargers here. Hey, it's a Michigan man to Jim Harbaugh. Boy, don't that make sense. I will say I know of one NFL team in their advanced scouting that thinks Grant has top 5 pick potential. Hasn't showcased yet. A lot of projection. Don't sleep on him. Nick Scorton. This is the Purdue transfer to Texas A&M. Played really well for Purdue. Guys, if Trayvon Walker doesn't come along, they've got to draft another edge rusher. They have to. Ernest Green out of Georgia. You know why Amarius Mims played right tackle? Because this Green guy was pretty darn good. Goes in the exact same range, a potential left tackle option for Cleveland. I would wonder if the Micah Parsons comps might make more sense. They're unrealistic, but bear with me. For Abdul Carter. He was a linebacker to begin his career at Penn State, going to play more edge this season. You have Montez Sweat. Yeah, we'll see if Austin Booker or Dominique Robinson emerges like third options. How about a number 2 pass rusher who's super cheap on a rookie contract, and then the Sweat contract goes away, and then you pay Carter. Could work out very well timing-wise for Chicago. Now, NFL rookie jerseys are available, including Caleb Williams. The 18's locked in. Other fans, you might have to wait a little bit to get the rookie jersey number of your choice. But the pre-order stage is available on Fanatics. It will ship with the right number. It just has to be officially, signed off on by the NFL because rookies sometimes change. Go to chatsports.com/NFL jersey. That's chatsports.com/ I remember seeing the Broncos owner, GM, saying they wish they knew what Bo Nix's number was because they wanted to sell some jerseys. You can pre-order it, though, right now. Chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Emory Jones, next up here at another LSU offensive lineman. How about them apples? Again, this is a very talented LSU football team. You almost never, ever see 2 offensive linemen from the same team taken in round 1A. You can see that kind of, a year, 2 years later, whatever, but you don't normally see it the very same year. LSU has a chance to actually accomplish that in a way we don't often get to see. We obviously mentioned Will Campbell, who was the left tackle, and then Emory Jones, the right tackle, also has some great size, athletic ability, very intriguing prospect. Let's get the Jets another wide receiver. Tetaroa McMillan out of Arizona. I'm actually higher than most, I suddenly feel like, on Arizona, knowing the coaching change did happen. 6'5", big body on the outside. You might have Allen Lazard with some maybe a little bit more juice. Could appeal to Aaron Rodgers. I will say, I did think about a QB here. But for now, I'll go with the playmaker. Atlanta, Denzel Burke out of Ohio State. We mocked him like in this range in a lot of 2024 mocks. We'll keep him right there for 2025. Great time to mention this. Again, early mocks, projection. You're assuming players take a step forward. Sometimes they don't, and they fall out of the first round. Walter Nolan is that guy this year. Former top-rated recruit, right? At A&M, does the thing, goes to Ole Miss. If he can showcase the raw talent, he could be a first-round pick. Or he doesn't, and he goes back to school. Or, hell, transfers again is certainly possible. Dolphins still need some more DT help. Takario Davis, look, another Arizona guy that I put in there that most people don't have. I like him. Thought about the Washington Huskies corner as well here, by the way. I've seen some good stuff on film. Packers need a corner. Just makes sense. Another A&M defensive lineman, Shamar Turner. That A&M, I was shocked that I did it, but there's talent there. These guys are all like 5-star / super productive. Scorton, Walter Nolan, and Shamar Turner. Or sorry, not Walter Nolan, but Nick Scorton, excuse me. Nolan and Turner did play, of course, briefly at A&M, but not altogether. I think DT is an area of concern for Houston. Add an impact 3 technique. I think that'd be a great move for them. So no running back so far. Will a running back be drafted in round 1 of the 2025 NFL draft? Y for yes or N for no? You probably saw that one coming, right? Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State, the Ole Miss transfer. I think he's the top running back. Some other names we'll get to here later on. OSU. It's too easy, right? Cowboys, first-round pick, running back, Ohio State. It just makes sense. Malachi Starks out of Georgia, who I think might have been the best of all the Georgia DBs, had like 4 of them drafted this past year. Eagles don't normally invest heavily at safety. They often go receiver edge, but they kind of did that already. So break the trend here. Let's go with the Georgia safety, Malachi Starks. Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State here to the Buffalo Bills. A very different type of receiver than Keon Coleman. And I think that makes him a really good blend and fits and stability option for the Bills. Different playmaker, different style, matches well with what they have. Back-to-back, look at all these OSU guys sneaking in the end of round 1 here. Was not my plan. JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. Against Penn State, first-round pick. Against everybody else, room to grow. Still waiting on that breakout. He was a popular back end of round 1 pick last year. Probably would have been a fringe top 50 pick. The mock draft pick last year would have been top 50 pick this year. Need that big-time breakout season, though. I'll put one of my sleepers on here, to an extent sleeper. I actually had mentioned him briefly in a mock draft. Princely Umanmielen, the Florida to Ole Miss transfer, going to go play with his brother, I believe now. I like the ability. I think the juice is there. I will make sure to include him on some early round 1 mocks. Haven't seen him on very many from other people. Landon Jackson. I might put him at 5 tech. He torched Alabama. He had one of the better games all year against Bama. Made Melcar put him a top 15 at one point, off of the one game, and then it was hey, where did everything else go? There wasn't enough consistent production. Needs more of that this season. The Chiefs have to pay Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in the near future, and they're already paying Joe Thuney. Something's got to give there. So I'll project ahead to, hey, maybe they let one of those guys walk and they draft Tyler Booker, who I think could play left guard or right guard for Kansas City. I think he could do both. This, by the way, is the only Bama player in the first-round mock draft. When was the last time Alabama didn't have a first-round pick in the NFL draft? Was it Saban's first year or something? Because that might happen in 2025, folks. The Niners, I guess I like Arizona more than most people. Jonah Savnaiya out of Arizona, the offensive tackle. Niners might need 2 tackles next year if Trent Williams retires and the right tackle doesn't get any better, unfortunately. So I would look strongly at that spot. Plenty of names that I Did not get to because I got 32 picks, and if I get 50% right, that's actually better than most people on the way too early versions. Who did I leave out of my 2025 at an NFL mock draft? Sound off in the comments section. Couple names I want to mention. Ollie Gordon is my next best running back at Oklahoma State. There are other guys, OSU's Travion Henderson, Amarian Hampton, even Taj Brooks. It's a good class if they all turn pro. Gordon would be number 2 for me for now. A couple transfer wide receivers, Isaiah Bond, Deion Burks, Evan Stewart. First-round upside, got to prove it. Josh Connolly's got some fans out of Oregon. Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, a DT. Patrick Payton was the first guy I left off. I do like his game a lot from Florida State. Dennis Sutton, another Penn State guy, he'll probably test super well. Jack Sawyer's the other OSU edge. And I'll throw in Barrett Carter as well out of Clemson, since Harold Perkins is kind of a tweener as a linebacker edge piece. Prediction time. Will the Titans trade Treylon Burks? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off at the pinned poll and in the comment section. As Chris B has a $2 super chat, thank you, Chris, can easily see wide receiver / running back round 1 for Dallas, quarterback 2. I was this close to putting Shedeur Sanders there. And at some point, if we get to week 1 and they haven't paid Dak Prescott, you will see Shedeur Sanders mocked to the Cowboys in round 1s, whether it's by me or by somebody else, it will happen. Which maybe that circus is a bad idea for Dallas, but it's Dallas. Receiver was the other thing I considered too, because you got Lamb and not much else, especially next year. Offensive playmaker feels like the big need for Dallas. That's what happens when you just keep shuffling out all the different pieces over the course of a 4 to 5 year span. If you haven't already, please make sure you guys are subscribed, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Sub now for more free NFL YouTube videos. No loop today for you guys. Another live show coming up on Thursday from the NFL crew here at Chat Sports.